Hello everyone, my name is Vinicius and welcome to my presentation. Today I'm going to present you my paper Towards Sustainability for Systematic Literature Reviews. To give a little bit of context, we are investigating systematic literature reviews, which is a method that is being increasingly adopted in recent years by software engineers, and is considered a reliable method to summarize the literature and produce scientific evidence. Using SLR, researchers can find out the state-of-the-art of a given research topic, or even discover research gaps for further investigation, reduce the bias, produce auditable results, and repeatable results. Despite the benefits, SLR suffers from several problems, like the poor documentation and the lack of rigor in following the guidelines. To mitigate these problems, many tools were proposed. However, we can't say that this problem are actually solved. Also in this context, there are two main problems that remain with no suitable solutions. First, the systematic literature review is very time and effort consuming. Second, there is a lack of impact of SLR results in the industry. Therefore, our main research question is, it is possible to reduce the high consumption of resources, in this case the time and effort, while we assure more accessible and useful results for industry? The main goal of this paper is to introduce the sustainability of SLR, a new vision on how to better deal with the high consumption of resources and the lack of impact on industry. To propose this new vision, we selected 6 studies published in the last decade that outline the main problems of SLR conduction reported by researchers and the possible causes for these problems. Next, we classified these barriers in 3 dimensions. The social barriers are related to the human aspects of SLR. For example, the communication between the academy and industry, or the impacts of the results in the society. The economic barriers are associated with the consumption of the resources in the whole SLR life cycle, including the conduction and the update. Finally, the technical barriers are related to the problems with the tools and the technology used to support SLR conduction. In the final step, we used these barriers to propose a new vision about SLR. After the summarization, we found 4 main problems and 31 barriers, or possible causes, associated with these problems. The first problem, the lack of industry interest in the results, may be caused by inappropriate research questions or even the presentation of results that are not generalizable for other areas. For the second problem, a high consumption of resources, many possible causes were found. For example, the limitation of electronic databases and the presence of duplicated studies among different databases. The third problem, the poor documentation, may be caused by the lack of commitment of the authors in providing information about the conduction process or the primary study selection and synthesis. The fourth problem, the lack of quality of SLR. Some authors argue that the wrong classification of primary studies or inadequate synthesis methods impacts directly in the quality of SLR, just as the lack of expert evaluation of the results. Each of these problems can be observed to social, economic, and technical perspectives. Many of these problems impact 2 or more perspectives at the same time. To propose an adequate solution for these problems, it is necessary to observe from an integrated perspective. To propose our vision, it is necessary to understand a little bit about sustainability. This area started in ecology to preserve natural resources and was adapted to software engineering to preserve the software itself and to minimize the environmental impact of software. Sustainability is usually divided in 3 dimensions: environmental, social, and economic. In software engineering, the technical and individual dimensions are also considered, but there is a theoretical discussion in other areas about which dimensions should be included. Our goal here is to use all the knowledge accumulated in both areas to propose an adaptation of sustainability. We propose that sustainability of SLR is a process and a set of actions to make it possible to preserve SLR to endure over time and with the less possible time and effort consumed, and effective impact of the results on industry. We divided initially sustainability of SLR into three dimensions: social, economic, and technical. Social addresses the communication, collaboration, and effective participation of stakeholders, including academy and industry. The economic dimension aims to preserve the resources consumed during the conduction, audition, update, or the replication of SLR. The technical dimension preserves the reliability of the tools to conduct SLR and facilitate their use in the update or replication. To achieve sustainable SLR, we need to understand how each dimension interacts among them. A graphical representation is an opportunity to better understand this. In ecology context, two different types of representation were proposed: the weak sustainability and the strong sustainability. In the weak sustainability, dimensions must be balanced and it is allowed to treat the problems separately. This representation seems fair for sustainability of SLR, but managing many variables to find the right balance may lead to doubts about the feasibility of this approach. Even considering an unbalanced view in which the technical problem is a common concern, social and economic dimensions still have many variables to handle. Another possibility is to use the strong sustainability and nest all dimensions. The key idea here is that the dimensions must respect a hierarchy to achieve sustainability. In other words, the representation doesn't allow to treat problems separately. A possible problem with this representation is to choose which dimension have a higher priority. But economic or social constraints with a higher priority can lead to problems with accessibility to industry or poor documentation of SLR. Observing our results, we can conclude that there is a lack of knowledge about SLR process, or a lack of commitment in applying these good practices, which lead to a poorly documented SLR that can be replicated or updated. In addition, SLR tools do not have integration, and an international collaboration is needed to solve this problem. This paper proposes to change the perspective of researchers and observe the current scenario from an holistic way. We aim to raise awareness that it is not possible to solve all these problems without an integrated solution. Finally, we bring a disruptive idea of sustainability of SLR that can be a key concept to change the mindset of researchers while proposing new solutions for SLR. Thank you for your attention.